Hi, my name is Erin Leib Smokler. I teach here in the Drisha Continuing Education Program, and I've also studied here for many years. This week's Parsha is Parashat Va'etchanan, and it begins with one of the more devastating episodes in all of Tanakh, I believe. Moshe pleads before God, Va'etchanan el Hashem va'etzahi lemor. In this book of Dvarim, a book of recollections, Moshe speaks poignantly about his efforts to beseech God to change God's will. Having been punished to never enter the land of Israel, Moshe begs God nonetheless, let me, I pray, cross over and see the good land on the other side of the Jordan, that good hill country, Lebanon. Moshe, hoping against hope, bumping up against an already prescribed prohibition, asks God just one more time for an alternate fate. He begs to have his one lifelong wish fulfilled. Indeed, the Midrash, building off of the gematria of the word Va'etchanan, suggests that Moshe asked not once, but 515 times. Over and over again, he begged God. But alas, God would not budge. Says the Pasuk, Va'itzavar Hashem bi le'manchem v'lo shama elai. God would not listen. Moshe was doomed never to step foot in the land of his dreams. The language of this dramatic episode is particularly noteworthy. Rashi points out that the root of Va'etchanan is chen, meaning grace. Moshe knew that he was not worthy, and so he asked for a matnat chinam, an undeserved gift. He wished to be bestowed with a kindness that he was not owed. Surprisingly, Chazal see in this prayer, this rejected prayer, a model for tefillah more generally. The Midrash cites it as one modality of 10 for how we might approach God. The Gemara cites it as halachic precedent for the kind of mindset one must cultivate in order to pray. The verb also finds its way into our daily tachanun and into the Amidah, atachonein la'adam dat. Moshe's doomed from the start plea for God's grace, his desperate hope against hope that his fate might be turned around, is curiously hailed as an a priori ideal. My question is why? Why would an unanswered prayer become a model for prayer? What might that tell us, actually, about what prayer is? I'd like to suggest that we might think about this prayer itself as instructive. Perhaps when we pray, specifically petitionary prayer, as atachonein is the very first of the bakasha section in the Amidah, perhaps the message there is that we ought to learn how to pray specifically when we know that it actually won't be granted. We have to cultivate a willingness to ask for things, to hope against hope, even 515 times over, knowing fully well that things just might not turn out our way. Because prayer isn't actually about tit for tat, about prayers answered immediately, about grants and petitions and gifts, rather. It's actually, I would suggest, about learning to create an intimacy without expectation. When we seek dat, atachonein, we are asking for that gift of grace and that spiritual wisdom to be able to be in a relationship with God, specifically in the absence of a direct response to our prayers. And we might ask, why then even ask? Why have petitionary prayer at all? And I would suggest that the telos, the essence of petitionary prayer, is not the fulfillment of a petition per se, but rather the cultivation of oneself as a petitioner. Because when we ask God for things, when we open ourselves up to chen, to the grace of God, we recognize ourselves as vulnerable, as deficient, as people who are in need. And that is a fundamental stance of the spiritual life. It's one of humility, of recognizing that we might only be able to ask for matnat chinam, for the gift of grace, of a gift not really owed and not really deserved. God may or may not grant our prayers, but regardless, the process of asking is itself transformative. This Shabbat is also Shabbat Nachamu, where we read Yeshayahu's famous words, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, take comfort, my people. In the aftermath of the destruction of the temple, and in the wake of our mourning and fasting for it, we announce these words of consolation. I would submit that there is a close relationship between the chen of Va'etchanan and the nechama of Yeshayahu. In a world that lacks a temple, that epicenter of direct connection to God, we must yearn instead for a different kind of spirituality, a different and a new intimacy with God, an intimacy born of a mature, more sober spirituality, one that is without expectation or entitlement, and yet still full of hope. That paradox, that willingness to live in that in-between space, I believe, can actually bring us the real comfort that we seek. So as we read it this week, Parashat Va'etchanan, and we ponder the words of Yeshayahu, let us hope that we might find ourselves, open to chen, to grace, and also to a real nechama, to comfort. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.